What is up, A-Team? Welcome back. Awesome here. Hope everyone's having an awesome day. So we're going to talk about Ledger. Obviously, we know sort of what Ledger's been going through, but Ledger did hit a massive milestone just recently, and they successfully closed 80 million ledgers in approximately 10.5 years, which is fantastic. I mean, to be able to grow at the capacity of what Ledger has grown at, be able to drop that many ledgers out there is just blows my mind. And to think that they've gotten that far in such a short span of time, I mean, is huge, right? I mean, these things are charged. These things are about $130 each, selling about 80 million of them is fantastic. However, right here, Ledger recover fiasco exposes gap between blockchain ideals and technical reality, and this is the biggest thing that Ledger is facing right now. Is that Ledger came out just recently with a Ledger's recover phase that they're trying to roll out there. One thing that's pretty scary about this is that this is built into the firmware that are already on existing ledgers. And I get that that's speculation, and a lot of people are out there speculating that, but there's a lot of professionals already out here that they basically said you can't change our minds. We already know what was said. And Ledger came back and tried to backpedal this and say, hey, we haven't released everything. We maybe got a little premature with our release on this. We should have released it with some white papers or some research papers so that people weren't out here speculating on what it was. Because a lot of people were saying this is a backdoor to their seed phrase. And now you are creating sharding, which allows people to have access to certain portions of your seed phrase and then will eventually have access to your entire seed phrase. And so that's sort of what's going on here. And unfortunately, they're getting a ton of backlash here. And that everything that basically they spoke for in terms of decentralization has come out that really isn't the case at all. Basically, this firmware that has been on these ledgers, people have had access to their seed phrases from day one. And I get that some people are out there like, that's not true. And some people are fighting for Ledger and some people are totally against it. Pretty upset about it. And it says right here, it was revealed that the proposed feature last week, Ledger inadvertently drew attention to the fact that the company could theoretically move wallet seed phrases off devices via user-approved firmware. So that was the whole thing. Was that it was these things were set on your device and could never leave your device. That's what everyone was sold on with Ledger. Is that once you have your seed phrase, it's on the device, can never leave the device. Then all of a sudden they came out and said, well, no, there's a firmware on it now to allow it to move off your device and be sharded. And when I say sharded, that means that they would send out certain pieces of your seed phrase to certain third-party companies, which then would own those seed phrases. And then if you wanted to do a recovery, they would all collect all the sharding that was put out there and bring it back, and then you'd be able to recover your seed phrase. Well, this was not, no one was happy about this. I don't think a single person came out and was like, that's great. I take it back. There was a couple of tweets out there that were like, yeah, this is a good idea. However, you can see that there was massive backlash on this. It says one of the potential backdoor was revealed. Outrage flooded crypto Twitter, and you can see this is the whole video right here where someone just completely shattered their ledger and then burned it up, saying, "I will never use this again." And it says a lot of people were saying that there was a backdoor was revealed, and some people said that's not the case. Ledger came out and said that there was not a backdoor. However, they denied it. They came out and said it. The company's initial response to the outrage was pointing out in an now-deleted tweet that users were always trusting Ledger not to extract users' keys, only served to fuel the fear. So they came out and they said that you've always trusted us with this and never said anything before. So why aren't you trusting us now? And it was like, wait a second, so you're basically agreeing to this. And now you're trying to backpedal on it. And so there was even more outrage on this. It says, in the letter posted to Twitter on Tuesday, Ledger CEO Pascal apologized to customers, promised to open source as much of the Ledger operating system as possible, and he delayed the release of Ledger Recover. And we saw that on a Twitter space. Delay or not, Ledger's ability to move users' key via future software upgrades remains intact, mainly as a byproduct of technical constraints with how Ledger and similar wallets are engineered. And that's really what it came down to, is that this is an engineering issue. This is an architect exposure. They basically exposed their architect as to what it was. A lot of this probably was never discussed, but this was probably something that's always been there. Just no one's discussed it or had questions on it, or it's never been brought up. And unfortunately, I don't know how the company is going to backpedal out of this, because a lot of people are now looking elsewhere. And so we'll see what happens here, man. People started to think Ledger was a trustless solution, which is not the case. Some of trust must be placed into Ledger to use their products. And that's the thing, though, is that people don't trust anyone. You're putting millions and millions of dollars onto a device that you thought you owned and Ledger had no control of. But come to find out, Ledger did have control of that software. Ledger does have control of your ledger that you own. So that whole, hey, I have my own device here. This is my device, and you can't do anything about it. Well, that's all changed now. That basically means that they can install a firmware on there or do whatever they want to do to control that device. If they want to take away your money on there, they probably could take away your money on there. That's really what this is exposing here, is that they've always had this ability. People have just been blinded by it and decided that, like, hey, I just trust Ledger. They're the most trusted out there, and they wouldn't do anything like that. But in all reality, their architecture just showed that that's exactly what happens. And so everything that we thought Ledger was technically really isn't what it is. And I know some people will argue that, and some people will say, well, that's not the case. This, and oh, you're just fudding Ledger. And well, no, I'm not. I mean, they came out and actually said exactly what it is, and then people are just connecting the dots and reading between the lines, and now just showing you that they're just like any other company out there, and that they have access to all your stuff. They have access to your money. They have access to your Bitcoin. They have access to your seed phrase. They have access to it all, and they've always had access to it. And the crazy thing about this, one thing I will say that's always blown my mind when it comes to Ledger, is that people believe they played into the psychological path of people here, and that people believe that once you unplug your crypto from online, you are now, no one can touch your crypto. And although that is true, you do realize that at some point you got to plug that ledger back into the internet. And so to sit there and say that your cryptocurrency is safe, yeah, it's safe because you don't have it plugged in. But as soon as you plug that bad boy back in, you better hope that that firmware or whatever they put on that ledger, whatever they put into that software when that thing plugs in, is going to work, and going to work to protect your crypto. Because if it doesn't, then your crypto's gone, regardless of how much you keep it off a line. That's the thing that's so crazy about this, is that they've sold you on the psychologicalness of it, that it's, you have to keep it offline to be safe. And again, it's how, yeah, that's safe to some degree, but as soon as you plug it back in, it's game on. So I've always thought that that was crazy, that they use this offline unplugging from the internet as a source of trusting them to, make sure your crypto is protected. But in all reality, you're just as exposed as anyone else, because you're going to plug that back on and make it a hot wallet to access it at some point, right? So like when you start to really connect that and put that together, it kind of blows your mind that a lot of people, 80 million people or 80 million ledgers are out there, and people trusted that theory. But yet we're seeing it right now. So the great thing is that new technology will come into this space, and new tech will continue to take down what Ledger has created, or use what Ledger has put out there, and move forward with. And one of those is MMAI Pure Wallet. An MMAI Pure Wallet is an offline wallet that's going to be built on your phone, and it's literally on your phone through a smart device, and it's going to be have an offline capabilities, cold storage offline on your phone. You're not going to have two separate devices, and that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. That's a technology that I think is going to move into this space and take it over, because people don't want to carry around two devices. People don't want to worry about where their ledger's at or waiting for Ledger to deliver a new one. They want to be able to download it right on their phone, be able to have access to it, and know that it's in a secure setting. And that's what Pure Wallet will do with their proprietary information and basically their technology. So yeah, with all that, let me know your thoughts on this. Do you still think that Ledger can recover from this? Do you think that Ledger is going to be able to backpedal out of this? Do you think that they're actually going to get back some users that they've already lost, like this guy right here? Yeah, let me know your thoughts on this whole thing. So with all that, hope you guys have a fantastic day. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And with all that said, we're out. Peace out, everyone.